Hello, Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. This week, we started our series that we're going to be doing as a run-up to Easter. It's on the 7 root vices. And today, I kind of want to talk a little bit about our journey together from now until Easter. This is traditionally what is known in the church as Lent. We've actually got about a little over a week until it actually starts. But during this time, Christians traditionally are preparing and fasting and getting ready for the celebration of Christ and his resurrection. And the Christian rhythm throughout history has always been one of fasting and feasting. Sometimes the church got too focused on fasting. In the American church today, we like to think about feasting a lot without talking about fasting, but the two really go together as a rhythm. And so we're going to be practicing this together. And I want to encourage you over the next week and a half to begin thinking about it now in preparation for when we begin working through this together as we are looking at the vices and the opposing virtues. And so we're going to be focusing on the vices, which are this aspect of fasting from something, or in the case of vices, actually putting off. We're going to be trying to stop doing something. But each vice, as I mentioned on Sunday, is actually opposed by a virtue. And what we're going to be encouraging is the putting on of that virtue. It's not enough to put off the vice, to fast from the vice. We must put on the virtue and feast, as it were, on that virtue. And I want to encourage this as this season of fasting. We are asking God, first off, to help us fast from these vices and sins. This isn't just about knowledge, a little bit different way of looking at something. As we were seeing on Sunday, sin always produces death. John Owen said it so great. Be killing sin or it'll be killing you. And so we want to be serious about putting off our vices and asking God to help us to do that. Secondly, we want to be fasting from some other activities to help us feast on God. The point of this, again, is not just giving up food or stopping watching TV or cutting back on it or social media or some other activity or time-consuming thing we normally do, but really it is to make space and make time so we can spend extra time in our walk with God than we are normally able to do. And in doing this, we're encouraging a fasting from activities to give space to develop some new practices. And this is important for several reasons. First, this is not just about getting new knowledge. It's not just about learning what each of these vices are and saying, well, isn't that interesting? What we're really trying to do is learn to put them off. And so we have to understand the vices and how they lead us to sin and feed sin, but that's only the first part of the battle. We also then have to understand and know the particular virtues that we're wanting to cultivate in our life. We have to think about it. Some vices have multiple virtues that could be cultivated. Which one do we particularly need to work on? We also have to learn the practices that cut the vices and then kind of repot and resoil the plant so that we are in a new place to encourage virtue and become more like Jesus. And so in doing that, it requires us to make some space for these new practices. If we were Gnostics, that group that separated the body and the spirit, we might not think that regular practices that we can engage in actually with our body even would affect us, but we're not Gnostics, and we know that they do. So there are even practices like fasting that seem to be a bodily exercise can really have a major impact and help us cultivate new character. And so we want to fast from some normal activities. This isn't just sin, but even things that just take up our time to give us room to be able to feast on these new practices. And all of it is going to require from us, as you're going through the devotions this very first week as a lead up before we even begin the 7 vices themselves, there's a number of times where we're asking questions about which vices do we think might be a struggle for us? Which ones do we think that we need to do? We need some space to give time to meditate and think and pray and ask the Holy Spirit to be showing us what it is He wants to work on in us. So this is going to be a great journey together as we are heading towards the celebration and the feasting that comes at Easter as we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. But between now and then, I encourage you to ask God to give you some guidance in some ways that would help you to cut back from things that may not even be sinful in and of themselves, but just to give space to allow some new practices to flourish, some new understanding, to give time to pray and work through some things, and we'll do this as a congregation together. I'm looking forward to this journey. I pray you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing everybody again this coming Sunday. God bless.